This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am back here in the very fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcast for the People. I am at the what's known as the Pop Pod in the one in Boca Raton. It is very luxurious. What I want to get into today is not that luxurious. I don't think I've done, almost 500 episodes of this podcast. I don't think I've ever done an entire episode related to this. It's tough to bring up. It's painful for people. It's touched on a lot of our podcasts and a lot of the relationships things that we get into. But I have noticed that it is a rampant problem, and that is the issue of cheating, fidelity. And I travel a lot for business. I travel a lot for this podcast, and I stay in a lot of hotels, and I stay in a lot of mid-range business hotels. So I'm in Hiltons and Hyatts and Marriotts, and the scene in those hotels and in the bars and in the restaurants where there are people with badges on and rings in their pockets and quickly calling home to check in with their husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, and then acting like the husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend does not exist in the world and doing whatever they want to do. As somebody who is not married, I'm always like, is the wife, husband okay with just that quick phone call and that's all they want? Is that their deal? Is that okay? Do they know what's going on? I have a million questions on this. I've been to some youth sports games with friends of mine, and mom and dad hate each other, but they're like flirting with the friends, the kids' friends. And anyway, a lot to get into. I couldn't navigate this myself. I have to bring in a pro for this. Not that she's a cheating pro, but she is a pro on really understanding this landscape. Those of you who've listened to this podcast for a long, long time, you've heard her on here before. She's been on my stage many, many times. She is the author of First Comes Us. Is that right?
Yeah.
She's a therapist. She's got a new book coming out that I'm not going to tell you about. But she really is passionate about this weird subject too. My old friend, Anita Chlipala. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Am I wrong to think cheating is, I don't know if the word normalized is ever, but it is, it's pandemic. It is, I feel like there's more of it. I feel like husbands and wives and boyfriends or girlfriends are a lot more distant and checked out. I feel like people are looking for stimuli from other places. I feel like there's a flippancy about it, but the pain of it and the dishonesty of it, it's real.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily see a flippancy to it. I think just the clients that come to me obviously are looking to see if they can heal and repair their relationship. But I have had the flippancy I do sometimes see is if someone doesn't, if there's a difference between two partners considering when they disagree on their either definition of cheating, or one partner A is engaging in some behaviors that they think are fine, but partner B views it as disrespectful. So then there could be some minimization, deflecting, gaslighting, things like that. But I do agree with you. In our practice, and especially for me, because I do specialize in infidelity, we have seen a huge increase in cases coming to us.
Yeah. And, traditionally it was the men who were the cheaters because the men are the ones who allegedly had the opportunities. They were traveling on business and whatever. And just to be clear here, if you go back to my 20s, any of my old girlfriends, I was probably no saint on this subject matter a long time ago. And I was cheated on, and it was, when it happened to me, it was the most painful experience I ever went through. The questioning, the dishonesty, and the person who cheated on me had such a serious cheating thing happen to her 20 years prior that I thought if you were ever this, it so damaged her and it's probably damaged her to this day. It affected her marriage. It affected her relationship. She had trust issues. She had resentment issues. She had all kinds of things that I was like, there's no way this person would do that. You just can never say that. You just never know. And that's why part of it is the hurt, the guilt, the shock, and somebody even told me, like one of her, anonymous or a friend or somebody said, hey, they're cheating on you, and gave specific details about it. I was so like, there's no way that would ever happen. I protected her. I was like, no, there's no way that didn't happen. And I was like, somebody's trying to make you feel bad. That's how shocking it was to me. And so until it happens to you, I don't think I even went back and looked at my terrible behavior in my 20s that, you're on spring break and your girlfriend at college is home and you made out with somebody at Cancun. It's not good. But a lot of times cheating comes from a place of a cry for help. I'm not satisfied at home. Both partners probably share in it to some degree, lack of communication. It's very rarely just, I need to go get laid, right?
Yeah. I mean, one, I'm sorry that happened to you. And yes, I think sometimes my clients, and I think even in Esther Perel's book, The State of Affairs, that cheating is kind of being like the worst thing that can happen to a couple, even over divorce. So it is really devastating. I mean, people experience PTSD symptoms. I treat it as a trauma. And so, and yes, I think it is difficult for some people to empathize until they are actually going through it, which obviously I would not recommend for anyone, just to be able to have empathy with their partner. But there could be a lot of reasons. I mean, one, we are seeing an increase in female infidelity. And then two, you would think that someone would not want to inflict the same pain, but there could be, a number of reasons why your ex did what she did.
Yeah, I know. And, people who operate from a place of pain don't always make rational decisions. And a lot of us are operating from a place of pain. But, what I've noticed is a lot of times people are just not being heard in the home. A lot of the women I know who are, I'm not going to say they're cheaters, but women who are doing things who I know are married and they're in adulterous affairs, their husbands do not make them feel desired. Their tension in the house, as I've said many times on the show, it's a problem when you go from husband, wife to mom and dad. There's a lot of that intimacy that is gone. And some people just need anywhere from a flirt to a hug to a bed. And they're crying out. And that's why I know you work with people to try and repair it. You think it is not absolutely fatal to every relationship if you go back and see how the elements played into this and what part each person took. Because it's rarely 100-0, right?
Yes. However, I mean, you also want to be careful because happy people can cheat. And I have had those clients on my caseload where they could say, I'm feeling pretty good with my marriage and I'm feeling great. So the vast majority, yes, I agree with you that there is maybe something that was missing in the relationship, the lack of attention, disconnection, not feeling desired 100%. But it doesn't explain away all of the reasons why people cheat. There's not the relationship doesn't always have to be bad or quote unquote broken in order to give a person a reason to cheat.
So you just said happy people cheat. Explain that. What are those? How does that? I'm sure it happens, but explain that.
So here's one example. So I actually worked with this couple. They just on typical relationship stuff, typical marital stuff. And they came back to me for a few sessions because the husband ended up having a kind of emotional affair with an ex-girlfriend from like 20 years prior. And so they started messaging and then he minimized the whole time because he goes, this doesn't mean anything. She's, I'm happy in my marriage. She lives halfway around the world. Just really kind of looked at it from a more logical standpoint. And the wife was so upset. She's like, you were rehashing your feelings. You told her you would always love her. And one of the things that came out of it was that this woman ended up sending him some racy photos. And he was like, this is great. I've never gotten racy photos before. And so he was happy. There was just, again, minimizing and not really paying attention to you're falling down this slippery slope. You're making yourself vulnerable here. And it ended up breaking trust. And so when I look at infidelity, I actually look at it in two parts. I look at protection of the relationship. And that's stuff like defining cheating, looking at your boundaries. How are you engaging in the relationship? How are you as a couple protecting your relationship? And then I look at the second piece, which is satisfaction. And then that's some of the stuff that you're talking about. There might be something that has been missing in the relationship.
Yeah.
But
and then, a lot of times, there's two kinds. I kind of look at somebody who you're in the workplace with and you share a cubicle with, and you actually spend more awake time with that person than you probably do your partner, and you flirt and you hang out and you whatever, and there becomes a closeness. And I'm not saying boundaries are ever crossed, but there's this emotional attachment to a colleague or a coworker that happens. Then there is people, though, that are just like on the road for business or traveling on a golf trip or whatever, and they're like, I am so disconnected from my home life. This is just a distraction. This is separate. This is just checked out, that they don't look at the repercussions of what's going on at home.
And they probably also don't think they're going to get caught.
And they think they're not going to get caught. I know. And
one of the common things that I see with my clients, especially the latter scenario, is that they are really good at compartmentalizing their lives. Where they do separate it, they do view whatever they do on work trips or when they're not home. I've even had some clients rationalize it as it doesn't count as cheating because it's not in the same state.
People rationalize all kinds of emotions and behaviors. Yeah, I know. And a lot of times the partner is okay with it as long as they come home eventually, or as long as they continue to be a good dad, or as long as they come back to me and share the bed or whatever. They're like, if this is what they need to do to get out of the system, sort of the old fashioned, the gumar. It's not healthy, but
Brian, I don't know if I would use the word a lot. I don't know who you hang out with, but my clients are definitely not okay with it. Unless they're specific. Well, they're not okay if their partner goes and cheats on them when they're on a trip. People, again, another characteristic of people who cheat, and I think sometimes the other partner as well, is there's a lot of conflict avoidance going on. So I think there's more, maybe we don't talk about it, or people don't talk about sex, or they don't talk about the problems in the relationship. But the reactions that people have when they find out that their partner cheated, they're not okay with it.
No, I'm saying a lot is probably a strong word, but there's a lot of women who are like, I'm tired. Let him touch anybody, just not me. Like, I don't care. I don't find him attractive anymore. Like, there's a lot of that. But you brought up earlier that is somehow more traumatic than divorce. I think you're right. If the divorce comes as a result of cheating, that's different. But if divorce just comes from we don't like each other and we're not getting along or whatever, the cheating, generally one of the partners or both still have some emotional attachment there, and that's what is blown up more than divorce, which can be logistical and financial.
Yeah, and sometimes, I would say maybe, although I have worked with clients where divorce just seemed out of the blue, for the most part, clients kind of know if the relationship is or the marriage is headed that way. But with infidelity, kind of like what you said, how shocked you were, right? There's no way. Or someone who, let's say both partners were suffering, so it makes the non-cheating partner even more angry because they're like, I was dealing with the same things that you were, and I
didn't cheat. Yeah.
Did. Why pay for you?
But the person who, everybody is sort of looking out for their own best interest in the moment. And I remember what she said to me at the time, like, it just happened. And I'm like, it just doesn't happen. This is like a multi-hour day thing. Like, it just doesn't happen. And, people want to justify behavior. They want to compartmentalize. They want to deal with. But again, I'm not trying to let anybody off the hook on this, including myself. People look for alcohol, they look for drugs, they look for sex, they look for an escape from whatever pain they're in or their reality. And sometimes when you're in a relationship and you're like a real relationship, not just like we date on Saturday night when it's all fun, like you're dealing with kids and you're dealing with work and you're dealing with stress. A lot of times you don't feel like boyfriend, girlfriend at the end of the day. You don't feel like husband, wife at the end of the day. And you need to go back to feeling flirty and good again. And that's why some of these women and men send pictures. They want somebody to tell them, oh my God, you're so hot. You look so hot, that maybe after you've been in a relationship for 2, 5, 10, 20 years, you're not getting that on a regular basis. So I'm going to get into more of this. I want to talk about how we communicate both on the front side and the back side to try and avoid this. I'm with Anita Chlipala. She is, I hate to say you're an expert on cheating. You're fascinated by the subject matter. And again, I'm not. It really bothers me on all sides of it and how often I see it. But, it's none of my business. But we are talking about this. We will be right back after this. And we are back. Almost every breakdown in a relationship comes down to communication. And people are not being heard. People are not respecting their partner's wishes, thoughts, conversations, cries for help. When the cheating happens and they come to see you, if they both come to see you willingly, and I'm not sure that's always the case, they come to you because they want an explanation. They want somebody else to hear them out. They want to repair it. What is the reason? All of those?
Yeah, I mean, if they both want to come in, or if they both come in and they both want to make the marriage work, or even a relationship, because not everybody is married. I do work with non-married couples as well. Then they want to know how this happened, why it happened, like how did it get to this point, and then healing, rebuilding, and then making the relationship or marriage better than it's ever been. So those are the kinds of steps. And I have people who come in individually, and they're not sure, like either, they want to know why they cheated, or they want to know if they should stay with a partner who cheated. And sometimes I do have mixed couples. Like I actually just saw one this morning where the husband wants to make the marriage work and the wife is unsure. And sometimes I have couples who come in.
Wait, was the husband the cheater?
No, he was not.
Yeah.
The wife was, yeah. And even when people don't know, so the other thing is, like, people don't know what they don't know. I mean, yes, I do specialize in infidelity, but I've also been a couples therapist for over 18 years. And so there's also just typical couple stuff, like you mentioned communication. Brian, I started keeping track of this a long time ago. 100% of our couples, every single one of them, when we ask them in the initial consultation, what is your goal? They'll say communication, like every single one. And sometimes it's like, it's not about communication. Sure, I could give you some skills and tools to help you, but a lot of times what it comes down to is really managing differences in relationships. And even more importantly, and probably the most importantly, is safety and security in a relationship. And by that, I also mean connection. Like a lot of our couples fight about connection and they don't realize that they're doing it. And then they just blow up their marriages. So when you talk about some of these, even though it's not always the case, if the relationship is a symptom of the infidelity, then yes, there's probably some things that could have been fixed, especially connection. Because a lot of times people will, that disconnection happens and it's not overnight, but it takes years. Like you said, if it's, you have kids and you have stressors and you don't have time for each other, the last thing you want to do is make love to your partner after a 16-hour day where the kids are crying and you had vomit on your shirt. People don't feel sexy. And, I always look at like, well, what did the affair do for you? Or what did the cheating, like, who were you in this affair? And it's usually they're able to be a way that they aren't in their relationship.
Is it easier for a couple to repair it if the cheater is completely remorseful? Or is it easier to repair it if the cheater is very clear as to why it happened, and then the couple can repair that? Does that make sense?
Well, you have to know,
I'm sorry only goes so far,
Right. I mean, you absolutely have to know, the cheater has to know why they cheated in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because then how would the non-cheating partner know it wouldn't? And part of my job is to help the person figure out why they did what they did and then close those loops or those gaps. So, for example, like if someone cheats because they didn't feel like let's just say they weren't getting enough attention, or they didn't feel sexy or desired by their partner, but they didn't speak up, they avoided conflict, then my job would be to, yes, teach them the tools or help them like to communicate to their partner so that they would be able to get their needs met from their partner, or
Yeah.
like to have the kind of sex life that they want where they could feel sexy. Like, what does that look like?
Cheating,
Look like
cheating's rarely about sex, though, is it? It's more about attention, isn't it?
well,
Unless you're getting
I
no
mean,
sex.
I think the popular belief is that cheating is about sex, but sometimes, again, it does come down to I'm not getting anything at home. So yes, sometimes there are cases, but more so I hear the I want to feel desired.
Yeah.
They want attention because, if they keep getting rejected at home, I mean, I think I'm not even a sex therapist, but in my opinion, sexual rejection is one of the worst to experience because when I say do sex right, then it's the most vulnerable that you could be because you're literally naked, you're emotionally naked, you're just so vulnerable. And then to continue to be rejected by a partner is probably the most brutal. Like I liken it to, like let's say financial security is important to a couple, and one partner blows like $1,000. The other partner will be pissed, like they'll definitely be upset.
Yeah.
But they're not like, oh, I can't believe you did that to me.
Right.
Don't take it as personally. But there's no way to not take sexual rejection, especially if it happens over and over again. You can't.
Right. Then it's like, why are you with me? What are we doing here?
Right.
We don't have a compatibility.
Me.
I'm mixing up my cheater and my cheatee here. Are there times when a couple comes to you, without naming any names, that you're like, this cheating by him or her goes so much deeper than what she knows, like that you're like, oh, this is chronic. This is not a one-time thing, and you can tell. And how do you pull that out?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that has happened. And that's when I beg my client to like be honest about the infidelity, because if something gets found out later, it's either going to set the couple back in the recovery process. Now, and I'm talking about like, I mean, and it's also hard for me to say with every situation. Like I will split the couple up and talk to the individual and be like, is there anything that you're not telling me? Because again, it really just depends. Like sometimes people just want to get everything off of their chest to feel better, where it might devastate the other person more. So, but when I can tell that they're hiding or they're still not being truthful or things aren't making sense, then yes, I really strongly encourage them to tell the whole truth. And the only thing I can do in those moments is this doesn't make sense to me and this is why. And point it out, because I've had sometimes the non-cheating partner was like, thank you for that, because this doesn't make sense to me either. So their gut is telling them the partner is still hiding something, and I could definitely see it.
Is there anything that you do, I guess this is not your role, but to try to ease the pain of the cheated on person? Or is that not relevant? The pain should be real? I don't... Because a lot of times they're even responding to, they're so hurt, they can't have a rational conversation about moving forward till they move past the hurt.
Well, I try to tell clients not to make a decision about the relationship for at least 6 months so that they can allow some of the feelings and the hurt to dissipate. But in the beginning, like what I really look at is emotional management, because the person who is hurt definitely wants to lash out. I mean, come on, right?
Right.
Like that's what they want to do. And so even with the guy this morning, when I told him, I had to give him some like self-soothing strategies, some distraction. And I always say, like, you have every right to feel how you feel. Like, and I know I'm asking a lot of you, but you cannot act however you want to act. Or if you continue, like, you don't want to then become, verbally or emotionally abusive towards your partner. Like, more hurt isn't going to help the situation.
Yeah, right.
If you want to walk away, or if walking away is an option, then you want to be able to tell yourself, okay, I did everything and I'm not going to have any regrets. But if you pile on verbal or emotional abuse, you're not going to be able to walk away saying, all right, I tried everything in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm asking a lot of my clients, but being able to manage your emotions, to be able to have productive conversations, and to be able to process everything that happened is really important.
6 months seems like forever for somebody to try and sit there and table that and ask the people to change behavior. Or like while you're going through it, you're wondering everything. You're wondering who are they talking to? What are they doing? Like that's the thing. You when you lose the trust, the most simple gestures, it takes forever to get over that, right?
Well, we're tabling whether or not to stay in the relationship or what they want to do in the relationship. But the whole time, like during that 6 months, the person who cheated, this is where this is different than typical couples therapy because it's not as balanced. So the person who cheated has to do more of the work to heal the non-cheating partner. And so things like, I'm sure, again, I don't know all the details of your situation, but if you wanted to try to make it work, but one of the key things after disclosure of infidelity is the need for transparency, because you don't know, like everything was a lie. To the traumatized brain, everything was a lie. Like, what am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know that what you say is true when you've lied to me so many times? And so I really recommend to the person who cheated, max transparency so that
you don't trust the entire relationship. Was the entire relationship a lie? Why?
How am I supposed to no.
Yeah, I know. So it gets back to broken trust. Do men, I imagine, because I know men who this happened to, men tend to take it harder than women. A lot of times women are like, he's a man and men have needs and they do that and they a little bit dismiss it, or is that me being sexist?
It might be you being sexist.
Okay.
What I kind of see is, and I think, I don't know if there's like research to support this, but I've definitely read it, is that men have a harder time with women's sexual affairs and women have a harder time with men's emotional affairs. And so, for example, if a woman is sexting with another guy, but let's say the husband or the male partner doesn't get that, like, well, why did he get all that sexy, all the sex pics and I've never gotten it? Or a woman is like, why did he write her love letters and he didn't write them for me? So it's like the things that they've really wanted for their own relationships or marriages, they weren't getting, but the partner was dishing it out to somebody else has been really painful.
I have had friends of mine, wives, girlfriends, I guess, hit on me, over the years, because they think, and this is not a good indicator of Brian Howie, think that I'm sort of emotionally neutral and I will just compliment them and be fun and fine and tell them they're pretty and answer the questions and make them laugh and everything. And part of that is a little bit insulting to me that I could just sort of be used in this way, but they're almost like, oh, that guy could be a safe port. He's never been married. He doesn't seem to care, where there's no risk. There's no downside. And I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable and I reject it. And I always have, because I'm always like, I would feel so bad if I were that guy. Or I would feel so bad and you never want to be that guy. You never want to be that girl. You never want to be the one feels stupid, or everybody else knows about it but you, or everybody else is whispering about it. So even the intimation to me is like, go work out whatever you got to work out. If you guys got to get divorced or have a conversation, but I don't want to get involved in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you may or may not be surprised at how many people end up cheating with like their partner's best friend. So, I mean, maybe you just take it at face value that these women find you attractive, or really we're just testing the waters.
I don't even know if it's that they find me attractive. I think they know that I understand women to a certain degree because I care. Like, I really am fascinated by the subject. You know me, we're friends. Like, I'll ask an extra question because I really want to know. The husband or the boyfriend or whatever, sometimes they just don't. And sometimes they won't care about how she thinks and what she does. Like, I will ask anybody, strangers, what are you thinking? Why are you thinking? I like that, hence the great love debate. Like, I love this subject matter. Not everybody wants to talk about this shit. And sometimes they want to, like when people find out it's got to be hard to date a therapist. because it's impossible because they're like they think you're constantly judging them. And back during, back in the day, people used to ask me, are you asking me this because you care about me, or are you asking about this for material for whatever you're doing? And I'm always like, a little bit of both.
Yeah. But here's the thing is going back to the attraction. I'm not necessarily even talking about like physical, but also emotional, which if they feel like you understand them.
Yes.
A lot of time, like this has happened more frequently than maybe people would realize, is how many times my clients have told me I wasn't even attracted to this person. But with, like you mentioned, the coworker, like you spend more time with a coworker, you get to know their personality, or you start becoming vulnerable, then attraction can grow. And that's happened to my clients where they didn't think of someone as a threat because they didn't view them in an attractive way. And then over time, boom, they're having sex in a hotel room.
I know that drives the person who got cheated on, nuts when they're like, oh my God, it's just they didn't like me because that person's not younger, hotter, or whatever. It's like, oh my God, they found something in that they're not finding in me. But some people just need an escape mentally. I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast, but there's a friend of mine. She's not even a friend of mine. She's a girl I went out with in college 25 years ago. I don't know. And she got married to the guy right after college. And so she's been married for like 20 something years. And she will reach out via email or something every like 5 years. I've been like, oh, I remember that time in Boston. We had so much fun. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're like 400 girlfriends ago. Like, I really don't even know. I would know if I fell over you. But in her place, it's like, what was my life like before I was married and who was in that? And they're kind of, that's not to say cheating, but it is using me and a relationship as an escape from whatever it is. And that with her, that's probably been going on like 10 years. And it's just a quick email and I just kind of respond. She emotionally is escaping somewhere, which might be healthier than her actually having an affair. But I'm always like, does this guy know that she does this or does he do it? I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Brian, is the way that you respond to that, which is, it sounds like maybe you quickly respond, but you shoot it down. It's not like you're engaging, right?
I'm answering whatever questions I'm trying not. I'm shooting it down. I'm not being like, oh, you look good these days. Like, I really don't.
Exactly. But that's how some infidelity happens, is that people, they might, for whatever reason, escape could be one of them. Absolutely. They reach out to an ex. And I do believe with social media, now we have, could start innocently. Oh, what are they doing? I wonder what they're up to. Oh, they're divorced or they're still single. And then you reach out. And then if a person does engage in that behavior, that can get a couple to tumble down this slope of ending up, she technically would be cheating then, not you, but like you shoot it down. But can you imagine how many instances this happens around the world where someone does engage in the conversation?
I know. I never want to be that guy. I don't want some husband mad at me because I emailed his wife back. Like, I just try and be like, sure, Merry Christmas. That is the thing though. Social media, there's a way to connect with other people. There is, is a porn addiction considered cheating in the marriage? Is it the same thing? Do you treat it the same way?
So, well, I am not an addiction specialist.
You know what I mean? Or a porn habit? Yeah.
No, but, well, I do have clients who, I think each couple has to determine for themselves if a porn addiction would be considered cheating. Like I have clients look at what do you consider cheating and what do you consider to break trust? What do you consider to be disrespectful? But I do have clients who will say that they, like, part of the reason why they're either cheating or towing the line and really kind of crossing boundaries that they shouldn't be crossing is because they are highly impulsive and have what they say an addictive personality. So I do look at the rewards that they get from whatever behavior they're engaging in and try to kind of bring that reward down in the hierarchy and try to give them like healthier alternatives, or even just looking at their behavior in different ways to see if they could stop doing it. So
I think a pretty good thing is if your partner saw your phone, would there be anything on there that would upset them?
right. I mean, that's a great guideline. I recommend it to my clients. You
Yeah.
should, in my opinion, I mean, I do believe people should have a right to privacy, but if your partner were to ask for your phone, would you be okay handing it over?
Yeah, well, I mean, the phone could be some misinterpretation, but I'm just saying mentally in your own mind, if your partner looked at your phone, would there be anything to upset them? And you can kind of use that as your own guideline, like, oh, that's that. And then you got to think like, okay, why would it upset them? And what should I do to make sure that I'm not doing anything, even unintentionally, that might upset them? And a lot of, I did an episode about this a couple weeks ago about how I think it's okay to have a healthy relationship with your exes. I think it's a good thing. But I also said that your new partner has every right to shut it down if they're not comfortable with it. And if they're not comfortable with it and they express it and then you're doing it anyway, then there's something that you're doing that might accept them. And your loyalty and your obligation is to the new partner. Your ex is your ex for a reason. It didn't work out. Right?
Right.
Right. Two things. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, again, I know everybody has a different viewpoint around exes, which every couple has to negotiate. But I agree because there's a difference. If they truly are just a friend, then it should be 100%. There should be 100% transparency around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than I want to kill that person, and that's unresolved feelings. All right, in the interest of time, give me two things. One thing is, give me either something that somebody can do or a technique that will stop cheating before it starts, and then you're going to give me something that's going to a step that can heal it if it happened. Does that make sense?
Yes. I may have a lot for the first one. Well, one, I always ask my clients in the initial consultation if they have defined cheating prior to the incident or incidences. And so far, 0% of my couples have said yes. And sometimes I'll get a kind of, and that's the problem, is that it's a lot easier to minimize behaviors that you're engaging in if there wasn't a clear definition of what cheating is, because you could rationalize in the moment, this isn't cheating. So I do encourage clients and just people to define cheating, both physical and emotional. So the emotional, because it's so gray, gets people kind of stuck a little bit. But I would, like, even with physical, what if your partner made out with someone at the bar, but they were drunk? Is that cheating? Where do you draw the line? Like, what would constitute cheating? And emotional as well. It's like, when is it just a friendship, and when is it turning in?
But I was drunk. It's not a total out, but it allows some things, and then you have to deal with the drunk. How often are you drunk, and why are you drunk?
Yeah, and then for the latter, I already talked about transparency, which is the big one. But because the brain is traumatized, like, one absolute necessity for healing is concrete actions that are based on what the non-cheater needs in order to heal. And so basically, I mean, anything from, and like, I actually wrote a blog, like 50 things you have a right to ask for from a cheating partner. And I got some backlash from some people that they're like, this is so controlling. And I mean, a lot of it was taken from my clients and things that we brainstormed to see, would this help you? And so, I mean, sometimes, like, my clients, if they cheated before work, they would map out how long it would take the partner to get to work, and they would call from the office phone so that the other spouse would know, okay, they actually are where they say they are. They're at work. I had one couple where the husband, because he cheated at work as well, like, when he was at work, he just had his Zoom on the whole day. And it was very comforting to the wife to be able to see that, he was at his desk. Or when he went out to lunch, he would take photos of his food and make sure to include the hairy arms of his coworkers, so his wife knew that he was with him.
Oh my God. I know. And then if you have to do that, then I feel like the trust is so broken that I don't know.
The thing is, but this isn't forever. That's, I think, like, where people get hung up. It's literally because you don't know, like, trust has been broken. It has been so broken that the person who cheated has to spend a significant amount of time to show their partner what I say I'm doing, I am doing. So how are you going to do that? Like, hey, I'm not texting the affair partner. Here's my phone. Or I'm not paying for hookers with cash. Here's the check.
Yeah.
You're going to see how much I get paid in my check through work. So you can see and hear the bank statement. So I'm not withdrawing any cash to pay for massage parlors or hookers in Vegas.
Jesus.
Like, I mean, this is what you have to do. And it's really comforting because as soon as some of that stuff doesn't happen, the person gets triggered and then they go into a tailspin. And that's where even what you said, that empathy piece, that remorse, when you see just how much this has affected the person who has been cheated on, like if you don't feel remorse, then you're probably a sociopath.
So I was talking to somebody I knew the other day, and she was talking about, how she met her second husband. And she goes, I had an affair with him while I was married. And I go, how long did the affair go on? And she goes, 2 years. And I go, 2 years? And she goes, the sneaking around over that long made us so close. It was almost like they were bonded in this skullduggery, in this gambit at trying to get around. And she's like, that was part of it. They didn't work out either. But part of it was that, like, they were brought together in this trying to keep it secret, which the whole thing doesn't seem good, but that was her answer,
Yeah. And I don't know if the statistic still stands, but I believe 75% of marriages to the affair partner end in divorce.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Secrecy, yes, it fuels passion. And you take that relationship and then you put it into the boring routine of everyday life.
Yeah. The fun, once the fun of the affair, and this is something new and fresh, whatever, goes away and you're right back where you started, then you look at, oh my God, what did I blow up in the first place to get here? And then is this a new pattern? Yeah. It's all messy. I'm bringing it up because I see a lot of it, and I see, you smacked my hand when I said flippancy about it, but I do see a little bit of carelessness about it. And maybe that's because I see more of it in the women, and a little bit of that is the rise of the independent woman. Like, I'm going to own my sexuality. I'm going to be like him, and I'm not getting what I want at home. And my husband is playing video games, and fuck him. And I'm going to get what's mine. And so that does look a little bit different to me now. And I think a lot of people got trapped with their spouses in COVID and didn't have sex with for 3 years, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, I do see more entitlement, but I also think it's what do people expect out of their marriages, right? Marriage has changed over the last 100, 200 years where, now we place so much, we just place so much on our partners to fulfill all of our needs, right? And so it's like, well, if I'm not getting it I'm going to get it somewhere else. So I would rather just clients or just people have conversations with their partner around marriage, or like, what are their expectations? What can be met? What cannot be met? And if you need to go outside of the relationship, like, let's say even, my partner doesn't have all of the same interests. Okay, well, you could have separate interests. That's great. But just be mindful so that you're not falling into an affair. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially women, get married or go into a marriage not caring that it's going to last forever, and not even thinking about it, or even knowing, like, he asked me and I said yes, so we'll see how it works out. Which, when you're going into a relationship that way, that this is not the be all and end all and whatever, you are always kind of looking for a side door.
Yeah, that could be also someone's like attachment style. I call them safety net affairs, where someone isn't exactly sure if the relationship is going to work out. So they want like a backup plan. They need a safety net just in case. But that usually comes from anxiety.
Yeah, there are backup plans. There are escapes. There are distractions. There's all kinds of reasons why people do it. I'm not saying I'm sure it's happened to you. I'm sure it's happened to just about everybody. And it sucks to do it. It sucks to have it be done to. We can justify and try and sweep a lot of it under the rug, but I don't know. Maybe I'm older and more judgmental now. Just break up. Just break up. Easier said than done sometimes, but or go see Anita.
Yeah, come see me. I mean, I know that's the easy, or I think that's what society, the feedback that society gives is, well, why wouldn't you just break up? Why wouldn't you just leave? And to me, after working with infidelity for over 18 years, it's not that black and white. And a lot of times there is enough good stuff in their relationship or their marriage.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
also, people don't want to see their kids. They don't want to split time with their kids. They don't want to see them every other weekend. And so it's not that easy. But I would say if like, I think, I could get another tip is if your partner keeps bringing something up that is really important to them in the relationship, your responsibility is to listen.
Yeah.
Because it has to happen. Like, I have brought it up, nothing's changed. And so even though the person didn't cheat, they do have to take responsibility for creating the conditions for the affair happening.
And I think, again, not to defend the cheater, but sometimes I think they might be, if I can just have this moment, this vacation, this trip to Italy and have sex with two people, I will get that out of my system and I can go back to being the loving husband, wife, whatever. Like, I think that mindset might play in it too. So before you say like, just break up, they might just be like, I need a break from this and then I can deal with it. I respect that too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, some people, they do, again, it could be a justification, I look at all the variables, but they feel like they are a better partner if and sometimes these might be just for sex.
Yeah.
Like if they're getting sex at home, in those instances, I kind of see those sometimes, but yeah, I agree.
All right. How can everybody find you, your book, anything you want to plug? Your old book.
Well, yeah. And I'm at relationshipreality312.com. And then my book is on Amazon. First Comes Us, The Busy Couple's Guide to Lasting Love.
There you go. See, there's hope in there somewhere.
I know. And my Instagram is at Anita on Love.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. You look great. I haven't seen you in a long time. And I hope nobody's offended by me saying that, you or anybody listening. As far as us, like, share, follow, please review this podcast. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem. Check out my other podcast that is all the rage. It is called Dead to Me. It is a podcast about estrangement, which also involves a lot of trust issues. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts on that. Shoot me an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, cheating stories, or whatever for me or Anita, go to greatlovedebate.com. Our live show, our last one. It is our last one. Anita, you know what I'm doing with my last Great Love Debate? Live?
What?
I'm doing one. It is December 3rd, 2024. So if you're listening to 2026, you missed it. December 3rd, 2024 at the Boca Black Box Center for the Arts, about 4 miles down the road from where I'm recording this. That's it. I'll continue to do this podcast forever. But as far as the live shows, unless I get paid a ton of money like Elton John, I'm done. So make it work. We got a fabulous lineup. It's going to be really good. GreatLoveDebate.com. Because as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.